Hello, everyone. Hi, Sarah McArthur here, and I have returning to my podcast, Blue Roswell Woke Donkeys. I have Mr. Cam Crawford. Hi, Cam. Can you
Hi,
hear
Sarah.
me?
It's so good to be back with you here today.
Yes.
I can hear you
Good.
just fine.
Oh gosh, I was like, oh, I can't hear me. Great, super. Welcome back. And so people are probably wondering, well, why is she having one candidate come back again? And the answer is, tell us what happened.
Well, as some of you folks know, I was running for Secretary of DPNM, but a good friend of mine and my team, Tate Turnbow, decided he wasn't going to run for vice chair anymore. He was dealing with some family issues. And so I just took the opportunity to really step up to the plate. Some of you folks know I'm a firefighter, and we have to be ready to answer the call at any moment. And so I really feel like this is a time where I can step in and answer the call. And so the Democratic Party of New Mexico, I think, needs some help, and I'm ready to offer myself up to be part of the solution.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And I'm just going to tout your horn a little bit. You're kind of on the younger side, way younger than I am. And so I appreciate that you're showing such a level of commitment and interest at this juncture. I think it's super important to do that. So I don't really necessarily need to go through every single question again. But I mean, I guess I'll ask you if you're aware of like what the differences are between what you were running for before and what vice chair entails. What kind of things do you envision seeing yourself being responsible for as the vice chair of the Democratic Party of New Mexico?
Yeah, well, obviously, being a secretary, which is what I was running for before, entails lots of note taking, very close attention to detail, contact with folks all across the state, and basically just writing down what they say and then relaying that up to the party leadership. And so the vice chair's official role includes being chair of the Judicial Council and then serving and being in the capacity of chair when the chair is unable to be present. And so this job, much like, for example, the lieutenant governor, is really what
Uh-huh.
you make of it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've chosen to do is at this moment, where the Democratic Party has 29% approval rating amongst the American public, is I want to make sure that we are a service oriented organization. I want to make sure that people know that Democrats, when you vote for us and when you support us and when you see us in our community, it's because we're doing something for you and we're doing something to improve your community. I like to call myself a do something Democrat. And so how that looks like at the Democratic Party of New Mexico and for our county parties is doing innovative things like holding food drives or holding school supply drives so that you can get school supplies for your kids or volunteering at the animal shelter or doing litter pickups at the local parks. I think that when we literally live our values every single day, when people can
Mm-hmm.
not just know what it means to be a Democrat, but see what it means to be a Democrat, I think we'll go a long way in raising that 29% approval rating, and we'll bring people back to this party because we've had a lot of people leave, and there's no way we can expect to be a sustainable political party when you just see the bottom falling out like it is now.
So where do you think that 29% comes from? I mean, like, is that partially right now what's because of the vote that Chuck Schumer just took, or is it in relation to just I don't know, I mean that we didn't win nationally and people are blaming each other and there's so much about why we didn't win. And we were really close. I mean, people forget this, but more people voted for someone other than Donald Trump. I mean, it's just a smidge over, but then, I mean, when you total up their numbers, and then you had 36% of the entire voting population that didn't vote at all. And we were 3,000 short of
Yeah.
the last election in terms of Democrats. And I don't know. I mean, um, some of that can be blamed on voter suppression in some of these states that are really going gung ho and removing people's ability to vote. And even though they call them voter integrity laws, they're not. And I don't know how much you're aware of some of those things, but in some of those red states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Georgia, Pennsylvania, they're really trying and pushing hard to gerrymander and to make sure that no Democrat wins again, if that makes sense. So um, I just wondered what you thought, like, where is the 29%? And is that a recent number or is that since the election, or where's that 29% coming from?
Yeah. So that 29% is a brand new poll that CNN commissioned maybe less than a week ago, maybe a little over a week ago. But basically, they went out and they asked people, hey, what do you think about the Democratic Party? And only 29% of them had good things to say. And then even more so, only 40% of Democrats are satisfied with the direction of the party. And so I really think that it boils down to a couple of things. Yes, you mentioned the voter suppression, and that, uh, you know, rears its head at the ballot box. But I think when it comes to Democratic voters themselves, I think it's just based on how we've been treating them. So what I mean by that is every time you hear
Hmm.
from the Democratic Party, it's about asking you for money and asking you to send in $5 or $10 to defend democracy. When the time to do that was November 5th, 2024. I'm still getting emails from Democrats who have just won re-election and they're asking me for money again. They're saying, "Oh, we need to meet this fundraising deadline." So I think that there's been a really sick focus on asking for money, raising money to continue to support, some of the, I think, projects that haven't yielded us great results, like, these consultants or poll testing that really haven't helped us. And then on top of that, the Democratic Party only talks to certain groups of voters when it's an election season. And I think the tone can be rather patronizing. So, for example, uh, the classic playbook whenever you're talking to Hispanic and Latino voters is to talk to them about immigration. And you only talk to them about immigration because we're assuming that you're Hispanic. And because you're Hispanic, that's the number one issue you care about. When in reality, we should be talking to them about wages and healthcare and education. And so, part of why I'm running is because it keeps me up at night that we have a 29% approval rating. Nobody's more upset about the shift that Hispanic voters experience towards Donald Trump than me. I'm livid about that. Um, and we got to do a lot of things to address that. So, like I mentioned, community service,
Hmm.
education, educating people on what Democrats have done and what Democrats are
Hmm.
doing and what Democrats are going to do is going to be really
There,
critical in making
and what they're
votes.
going to do is the key that that's key, I think. What are you going to do? Because you're not doing anything in our view, in our purview right now. It looks like only certain, like Chris Murphy, Jamie Raskins, AOC, Bernie Sanders, who's actually an independent, um, and sir, Miss Crockett from Texas, I love her. She is something. She is something funny, but she's spot on with all of her opinions on the law, and so she's very vocal. And there was that one guy from Connecticut, Larson, who was yelling and screaming about Elon Musk and whatever it was they were about to vote on got thrown off, and and so I'm just wondering, you know when I talked to Barbara the other day, she's the lady that's running for the secretary now, and she said it's people are leaving and they're upset because Democrats don't tell you what they're going to do and then actually do it. So we talked about Nancy Pelosi, and Nancy Pelosi, I'm kind of getting a little bit soft on her because she still won't put up, or the whole idea that people in Congress are inside trading. They're doing insider trading. You can't do it in the SEC. And Nancy Pelosi knows that and has never brought up a bill or never is allowed anyone to bring up a bill to stop the insider trading in Congress. So when the American public see that, I'm just wondering, I mean, how aware are
Well,
you
she
or
doesn't bring
those?
up the bill because she doesn't, but
Right, right. So
you
do
know,
you think
it's
that the Democratic Party will have a better chance if they start focusing on what they are going to do, which which we all know we need to get rid of Trump, but I'm so sick of Trump and nobody wants to hear about Trump. They want to hear what are the Democrats going to do. Is that what you're kind of going for? Is that what you're saying?
I want us to be about service, and yes, I want us when we get into office to actually burn the political capital that the American people have, been so fortunate to bestow upon us. And so, I remember when Joe Biden was running, we heard a lot of talk about $15 minimum wage. We heard a lot of talk about public options. What happened? And so there's a lot of people who are dissatisfied with the Democratic Party because we make all these promises when these elections come, and then when we get into power, we don't absolutely exhaust ourselves in trying to get these bills passed. I get it. The Republicans are going to vote no regardless, but embarrass them for it, go and make them pay a political price. And one of the things that, I've really been pleasantly surprised to see is, you have folks like Tim Walz and Ken Martin holding town halls in these red districts where these Republican representatives have basically abandoned their voters.
And been
So,
told to by their
I want to see
leadership.
that here in New Mexico.
Hmm.
Yeah, they've been told to do that, by their leadership. And so, as that relates to here in New Mexico, we should be holding town halls with literally any local elected Democratic official we can find. So, for example, it might surprise people to know there's actually a Democrat on the Eddy County Commission. Eddy County is one of the most conservative counties in New Mexico. Now, she got elected because she ran unopposed, but nevertheless, wouldn't it be great if we could talk to her and ask her about all the wonderful things she's doing in her community to make Eddy County a better place? Or finding, somebody, who's the county clerk and asking them about, their day to day functions and how them being a Democrat expands voter access, or, county sheriff, whatever. Doesn't matter. If you're a Democratic elected official, we want to hear from you, and your community should hear from you about all the things you're doing to make that community a better place, by virtue of
Well,
being a Democrat.
I feel like Teresa, Ledger Fernandez is she's the largest. She has the largest area here in Chaves County, and she could come and hold a town hall. It might not get a lot of people, but it might just get a bunch of people from the Republican Party too to come down here because people are upset. I mean, I'm in awe and amazed by all of the cities that Rachel promotes on her television show and how many people are showing up and really vocalizing. I will say that um, I applaud that you want to do what you do. At the end of the day, that the goal is to get people elected. And I think the problem we have is the people we've elected in the past. I'm not saying necessarily New Mexico, but across the board, for sure the Republicans, and then for sure, a bunch of people that have been there forever. 30 and 40 years is too long to be in a job like that. And they're not they're wanting to play nice. And we're past the time of playing nice. When you're taking rights away and hurting people and harming America, and we're on the path to destruction with our current regime that's in place, then we can't play nice anymore. I think the days of being nice and trying to work across the aisle are almost over until the Republicans start to recognize
Okay.
that you're violating our rights. That's just my opinion. Personal opinion only. I'm not speaking necessarily for the Democratic Party, but I don't know. What do you think? What
No,
is
I
your
totally
opinion?
agree. There's
Oh,
100% agree. There's been this fixation and obsession with being civil and being polite to Republicans. And you notice the only time Republicans reach across the aisle is to slap Democrats across the face. And so I think we're at a point, and I'm so glad you mentioned it. We're not at a point anymore where we can, play nice and be bipartisan with Republicans. Name one issue where Republicans will work with Democrats on Democratic grounds? We're always compromising on Republican grounds. And so, we're very fortunate that New Mexico is a blue state. A lot of the times, these wonderful policies we passed, Democrats have had to walk it alone because Republicans have opposed them every step of the way. They opposed legalizing cannabis. They opposed raising the minimum wage. Every single one of them opposed the paid family leave that ultimately failed this past legislative
I
session.
I I was getting
Republicans
emails.
don't want to do anything for it.
I was getting emails from this Republican group that I've slid in on their email list, so I can keep track of what they're up to. And even down here in Roswell, the Chamber of Commerce is promoting don't vote yes for the medical leave stuff. So I actually wrote to the woman and said, "What are you talking about? I mean, if you're a business owner, you ought to be able to afford to pay for your people to have leave or go on sick leave instead of getting the whole office sick." And
Yeah,
she gave me back some stuff and nonsense, and I was like, "Okay, I see your point, but I'm not agreeing with it." Is what I didn't say. I was just like, I see your point, but I don't agree. And it
yeah. I
and
mean, and
really,
honestly, what I say in that, go ahead.
go ahead, tell me.
I was gonna say, if you can't afford to pay your workers a living wage and make sure that they have sick time off, then you can't afford to be in business.
Hmm. That's true. And that was my point. You shouldn't be saying I'm going to go broke if I have to pay them and they didn't do the work. And I'm like, but you can take the day off if you're the owner and no big deal, right? But anyway, I kind of digress. There's so many national issues to be worried about. And so I'm just wondering, have you had any conversations with any of the other people that are running right now about those things?
Maybe not necessarily on national issues. We've really been focused on what's going on here in New Mexico because,
Mhm.
I'm sure I'm not alone, but we're all deeply concerned about the status of the Democratic Party in New Mexico. We're concerned about, the fact that Republicans are out registering Democrats month after month. We're concerned
Mhm.
about, the regression and vote share. We're concerned about working people leaving the party. And so that's really what motivated me to run is because I think that there was a little bit of a void in that conversation with regard to, hey, what are we doing to really literally show up in these communities to invite people back into the game? Because like I mentioned before, a lot of the times people only hear from Democrats when it's time to fundraise, when it's time to run an election. We should really be present year round all the time, no matter where you are. And so that's something I've been really passionate about. Over the
Mhm.
course of the campaign, I was in your community. We had a
Mhm.
really raucous meeting, but sometimes that's important to have.
Wow, we did, yeah.
I've been in Los Alamos. I've been in Las Cruces. We've been everywhere. And we're
Yeah.
going to keep going everywhere because there is so many Democrats all across the state in big cities and small towns who are waiting on us to show up. And then when we show up, they want us to do something.
And what's
So
funny about that, I just
that's
want
what
to
I'm about.
say, that's funny that you say it that way because really you can't, I mean, democracy is not in a vacuum. You have to participate, you have to be informed, and you have to actually be involved, do something, or or nothing. And so when you mention the Republicans and their 4-year plans of registering voters, it's successful. Now, I will say that we do hold, we hold the majority in the Senate and the House in the state, and we have all 5 of our representatives in Congress are Democrats. So we didn't do poorly completely, but like you said, the numbers are getting regressive, and so we do need to be concerned about those things. And and I just feel like Democrats need to get off the couch and actually participate. So here in my county, I still have 8,400. We just cleaned up our list, so we lost 500 people because they've moved away or they've passed away or something of that nature. And so I just, as the chair, I got notice of that. And there's still 8,000 registered voters, and I can't, if I can get 30 people at my election to that I'm holding this coming Saturday for the new chair and the SCC, I'll be amazed because
Yeah.
it's, the people are, I get that they're burnt out, but I'm not sure. I mean, maybe it's a motivating factor. I'm not running again. I want to be on the STC, but I don't want to be the chair anymore. I want to let somebody else have an opportunity, maybe even somebody that's younger, that has more energy, that maybe can speak to people that as a baby boomer, I can't talk to because I don't speak the same language. So I mean, any help that you can give the rural counties in trying to figure out how to get them to do more than just attend a meeting once a month, which is kind of where I was told by some millennials that's all they were willing to do. And I was like, that's not enough. Oh, my little thing went up. That's so funny. I have a new Zoom uploaded, and so it shows my hand when I hold it up.
Huh.
Sorry. Anyway, okay.
It's
Um,
okay. Um, yeah, no, I mean it's not remotely enough to show up to a meeting once a month, but nevertheless, I mean, in its vast resources, I think the Democratic Party of New Mexico can afford to send texts to some of these voters and say, "Hey, listen, we're having a meeting here in Roswell on this day at this time at this location. We'd be stoked if you could show up." And that's one of the things that Sarah's
well,
done
we'll
over the course of her campaign is she's dedicated some of the resources to reaching out to some of these rural counties to have people show up to these meetings.
You can find it on my Facebook. You can find it on my Instagram. You can find it in the mail. I mailed 2,483 postcards asking people to get involved for this Saturday. I don't know how many. I mean, I
Yeah,
checked yesterday morning and I had 11 people registered. Some people don't register in advance, they just wait and come. So I don't know, but I mean, I'm
show up.
pretty
Yeah,
sure that the postcards went and they went to households. So there was more than one Democratic voter there. And I'm hoping
yeah.
that will help. And of course, we advertised it in the newspaper, like, the call that you're supposed to advertise the call. So and then today I found a Roswell events thing. There's like 7,000 members. So I took a chance and put it out and they went ahead and published it. The postcard, a picture of the postcard that says. So I'm just trying to get people, I feel like I've tried and so I'm just wondering if in the course of your visits to all these other counties that you've been to promote your running for vice chair. Uh-oh. You disappeared.
Can you hear me, Sarah?
I can hear you. Your picture went away. Is it windy up there?
I don't know what happened. I think the gig. Not particularly. I have my phone next to my window, which is where I get the best reception, and I've never had issues before, but I guess today's a little different. So I
That's
apologize.
okay. No, don't worry about it. So, what do you think? What are some of the problems that we're facing now? Now that you're sitting with a different potential hat on your head, what do you think the Democratic Party's biggest concern is, other than the things we've talked about? Do you have any other ideas?
I mean, honestly, I really think it just boils down to energizing Democratic voters. Because if Democratic voters aren't in,
You froze. I don't know if you can still hear me. I'm so sorry, Cam. You froze.
yeah, I don't know what's up with this internet connection.
Okay, let me just look really quick. What do you want anyone to know? This is the last question. You've talked a lot about things that you're wanting to see happen and stuff. So, what do you want people who will be voting for you to know about your commitment, knowledge, and focus going forward?
My commitment, knowledge, and focus are the same values that I live out every day as a firefighter and as a substitute teacher. I want to take
Mhm.
those same values to the Democratic Party of New Mexico. And so people are hungry for a Democratic Party that stands for more than just fundraising and asking you for money. They want a Democratic Party that's about community service. And so, like I mentioned before, I want the Democratic Party to be a place where you can go get a hot meal, where you can go get school supplies for your kids, where you can do, litter pickups, where you can literally show up in your community and literally show people what it means to be a Democrat. They can see it. And then number two, I want to focus on educating voters on what Democrats are doing and what Democrats are going to do. And so whether that's at the Roundhouse or in Washington, D.C., or right there in your community in places like Roswell or Hobbs or wherever else, we got to educate people on all the things that Democrats are doing to
Mhm.
make your life better and make your community better.
Okay. All right. Well, before we go and get blown off again, I'm going to go ahead and say we've talked, and I just wanted people to be aware that you've changed the role that you're looking for and seeking, and I wish you luck on that. And I'm gonna go ahead and sign off and say thank you for stopping by.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're you're so welcome. All right. Bye, everyone.